learning more about this grant opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Bronaugh. I am going to share my screen. Let's see. All right, is it working? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, perfect, great. Okay, so my name is Jen Perkins. I'm in the Office of Ag and Forestry Development at VDACS, and as I mentioned earlier, I had the great pleasure of getting to work closely with Commissioner Bronaugh on getting this program up and running. So I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of the program and talk a little bit about the equitable food-oriented development model that was used in developing it. And as Commissioner Bronaugh said, this is our first presentation, so it's going to be kind of high level. We're going to do more webinars on the specifics of how to apply, but so this is going to be sort of a top level look. So, it is not forwarding. Okay, hold on. We're going to try again. Hold on 1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay, so there we go. So first of all, what is the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund, which I refer to as VFAIF just because it's quite a mouthful. So this is a statewide program that focuses on equity and justice in local food systems by investing in new or expanding food retailers that address food access issues. So it was codified last year by the General Assembly, and so, we've been working since July 1st to get it up and running and managed to get the guidelines out and announce the grant round on December 18th. So it's a grant program only right now, although the legislation did allow for it to provide loans as well. So that may be something we pursue in the future. But again, we're solely focused on grants at this point. And grant funds are to be used to fund the business development, construction, rehabilitation, equipment upgrades and expansion of grocery stores, small food retailers, and innovative food retail projects in historically marginalized communities. So one of the unique aspects of the VFAIF program is that it was developed using the Equitable Food-Oriented Development Model, or EFOD. This is a development strategy that uses food and agriculture to create economic opportunities and healthy neighborhoods, and that explicitly seeks to build community assets, pride, and power by and with historically marginalized communities. And as Commissioner Bronaugh mentioned, this is still a pretty new field, and Virginia is really on the cutting edge. I believe we are the first, if not the only maybe, statewide program to utilize EFOD in the development of new programming. And the guiding idea behind it is to use food to connect health outcomes, community power, and economic development. So what does that mean in practical terms? I've taken this image from DIESA Enterprises, which is a group that's been on a leader in the field of developing EFOD. And so you can see there are 5 overarching criteria. First, EFOD puts a focus on equity and justice first, recognizing the need for systemic change and understanding and recognizing and reckoning with previous injustices, such as the impact of redlining on communities or the historical lack of access to capital. EFOD is place-based and is focused on strong community ties. It uses market-based business strategies with the goal of creating economic opportunities in the community. So creation or expansion of businesses to build community wealth and economic opportunity. Members of the community are part of the leadership and have decision-making power. This is a key aspect of EFOD that is focused on making sure that the community is able to look at what they need and decide what would be best for them, as opposed to having outsiders come and tell the community what would be best for them. And then finally, there's an aspect of community ownership. So this is another slide that I borrowed from some of the leaders in EFOD. And this basically just runs down, so what would EFOD look like and what wouldn't EFOD look like? And as you can see, the overwhelming focus is on using food to build stronger communities, create economic opportunities, and to build wealth. So it's a move away from your more typical charity-focused types of food organizations. So in the development of this program, we worked really hard to make sure that these EFOD principles were reflected in the guidelines. We convened an amazing group of individuals from around the Commonwealth to help advise us, people who work in food access, social justice and equity, in agriculture, and they worked very hard and were very thoughtful in developing the program, which you can see reflected in the guidelines and the purpose. So the purpose of VFAIF is to work in historically marginalized communities, which we've defined as minority or underserved, as well as those experiencing low food access. And the goals are to improve access to fresh foods and reduce food deserts, create wealth and leadership, improve access to capital for Black, Indigenous, people of color, or BIPOC business owners, promote community-owned business, foster innovation, and reduce food insecurity and strengthen food systems. So who is eligible? When we were putting the program together, we wanted to make it as broad as possible. So applicants can be individuals, farms, nonprofits, for-profit businesses, or organizations, including faith-based organizations such as churches. You can see here the various types of eligible products include grocery stores, innovative food retail projects that could be something like a mobile marketplace, small food retailers, which would include farmers markets, corner stores, small limited resource or socially disadvantaged farmers, and then co-ops, community gardens, restaurants, or cafes, with one caveat, which is, as we'll discuss in a minute in the mandatory criteria, a key element for a VFAIF project is that there must be a retail component. So a standalone restaurant or a typical food pantry would not qualify unless they were in a partnership with another organization that was doing a retail component. So the mandatory criteria, as I mentioned, retail component, the applicant organizations must be owned or substantially run by BIPOC leadership or be working with a BIPOC run organization. So an example would be, let's say the organization has a board, there must be BIPOC representation on that board. Or perhaps an individual who's not BIPOC has partnered with a BIPOC run organization. And this goes back to that EFOD principle of making sure that the people of the community are in decision-making roles. So obviously it needs to directly serve residents within underserved communities with low food access, including food deserts or areas of high food insecurity. There must be a clear history of community engagement. The projects must accept SNAP benefits and offer Virginia Fresh Match incentives. And then of the products that are purchased for sale, a minimum of 25% of them must be purchased from Virginia small, beginning, limited resource, veteran, and or socially disadvantaged farmers. So I will note that not all projects will be able to meet all of this criteria right at the beginning, and the same with the additional criteria that I'll discuss in a minute. And that's okay. We know that not everyone is going to be ready right off the bat. And so part of the role of VDACS will be to, help applicants figure out how to access SNAP benefits, and basically, as Commissioner Bronaugh said, do a lot of hand-holding to walk people through the process. Okay, so we have some additional criteria that we are encouraging projects to meet. And some of these get at the kind of the loftier goals of the EFOD criteria. So first we have providing customer access As we all know, a barrier to people is often that they simply do not have transportation to a market that sells fresh products. So an example here would be, maybe you have a mobile market component that you can bring the market to the community, or you provide some transportation that would get customers from the community to your marketplace. Next, we have integrating community culture and artistic expression in the business model. So this is a really kind of more esoteric one, but there are a ton of different ways that people could get creative to accomplish this. For example, commissioning a local artist to paint a mural, or how grocery stores often have music playing in the background. That could be music by local artists. So third is developing, new markets and enterprises with the idea of creating real and sustainable economic opportunities and basically, wealth building within the community. Fourth is providing a path for financial sustainability and positive outcomes to the community, which could include youth development, job training, workforce development, or maybe focusing employment opportunities on individuals within the community. And then finally, we are going to look for demonstrated success in creating partnerships and/or efforts to leverage additional funding. So the application process is a little bit different than your typical grant. We are asking applicants to do an initial pre-proposal to give a brief background of the project. And after that, we will schedule a follow-up call. And the idea here is to make sure people aren't spending a lot of time on projects that we know won't work, or putting in a ton of effort without getting any assistance from us. So we really want this to be an iterative process and to be able to do some hand-holding and provide assistance and guidance and resources. So we recently hired a program coordinator, which I don't want to jinx it, 2020 and 2021 being what they are, but ideally she will be starting on January 25th. So a big part of her role will be to work closely with these applicants. So after the pre-proposal, follow-up call, development of the full application, which will be due April 30th. And then something quite unique is we will review those initial applications, and then finalists will go to an interview. And you may recall in the mandatory criteria, there is a requirement that there's demonstrated community engagement and a history of work in the community. And the interview process will allow us to get at that, because we will be requesting that all applicants bring a community leader with them to that interview. So those leaders could be a formal leader, like an elected official or a head of a nonprofit, but we will also be more than happy to allow for informal leaders, like an activist in the community, or some neighborhoods or communities have that one person who just happens to know everybody and everything that's going on. That would be acceptable as well. Okay, so some of the details. Grant round opened in December 18th, will close April 30th. There's 1.2 million in available funding over 2 years. Up to 10% of that can go to a community development financial institution or a CDFI. The legislation does require us to partner with a CDFI. That RFP just closed on Friday, so we will be reviewing the applications and then negotiating a contract. So there'll be more details on that forthcoming once we get a little bit further through that process. There's $400,000 available this year, and award amounts will range from $5,000 to $50,000. And like I said, I'm not going to get way into the weeds on the details of the grant, how to apply all of that. But two common questions that do come up is there a match requirement? There is not. And then this is a reimbursable grant. However, knowing that access to capital is often a big issue, a portion of the grant will be available upfront so that people can get some cash in their hands and actually begin to implement projects and not be stuck trying to front end that capital. So we are going to be hosting 2 how to apply webinars that will get more into what an applicant really needs to do. We're holding those on January 22nd and January 27th. All of the details are on our website. There's no need to register in advance. They're both WebEx, and so you can just click on the link and join. I believe we will be recording them as well, and we'll have them posted so that that will be a resource for people. So the grant round closes on April 30th. May and June is when we will be scheduling interviews. And then in June, the grant awards will be announced before the end of our fiscal year on June 30th. So I think that basically covers the top level view of everything. This is our contact information. As I said, fingers crossed, January 25th, we'll have a new person. In the meantime, though, our website is a great resource. We have put up a ton of information. The guidelines are up there. The application is up there. The pre-proposal is up there. We also put together a frequently asked questions document that covers some of the things that we're hearing most often from people. And then we also, in the interest of full transparency, we have posted the evaluation rubric that we are going to use when we're ranking the projects. So you can go and see exactly what it is that we're looking for as we begin to get these applications in. So I think that covers it. So I'm going to turn it back over. And like I said, we'll be happy to take any questions. I'll look in the chat and see if there's any I can answer right now. But always feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to help.
I was having trouble unmuting myself. Thank you so much, Jen, for that. It looks like we don't have any questions quite yet. So we can roll right into, we do have one question. Small grocers. Have you defined that? What are the criteria to determine what a small grocer is with regard to the eligibility criteria?
I don't know that we have a specific definition, but I mean, pretty much if you are a retail, if you sell fresh products, you should qualify. Corner stores, convenience stores, that would all qualify. Farmers markets qualify.
Traditionally, there's a square footage metric that might determine the small versus other format, but it sounds like the square footage in this case isn't applicable. Yeah,
no, that won't make a difference to us.
We have another question about the mandatory eligibility requirements. Can you clarify, do all have to be met to be eligible, or is there nuance or wiggle room there?
They do all have to be met, but as I mentioned, not everyone is going to be able to meet them right off the bat. So if you have a plan about how you intend to meet them, or a time frame, or you're moving towards meeting them, that's perfectly acceptable. And as I mentioned, the coordinator, for example, let's say an applicant is not able to yet accept SNAP or offer Virginia Fresh Match. That's something that we can help them walk through and give them the guidance and point them to the resources necessary to do that.
So just to clarify, with regard to the eligibility requirements, a project, this creates the vision for what we're hoping projects will eventually be able to be funded to do, but that at the moment of applying, they do not have to meet all the mandatory eligibility requirements. However, they do need to provide the plan that they're going to be getting to that point. Okay.
Yeah. And so in the pre-proposal process, I mean, that's something that when the full application, you'll have to speak to each of those, but getting a pre-proposal in front of us and then having a conversation, we can start talking about ways to help people meet those different criteria.
One question I had that you mentioned, the 2-year time frame. I think you provided the fund amount for 2 years. What is the time stamp for that with regard to? I saw the 1.2 million, and then there's 400,000 for projects at a certain grant size. What is the final year for the 2-year funding?
So it'll be 400,000 this first year, and then 400,000 next year. And I did not mention this, which I should have. We will be allowing people, if they apply this year and have a successful application and complete their project, they will be allowed to apply for additional funds in year 2.
Awesome.
And then hopefully we'll have more money in the future.
Awesome. All right. Well, to keep things moving, we're going to roll it over to Maureen and Elizabeth to share more about Virginia Fresh Match and seeing this food access investment fund through the lens of increasing SNAP infrastructure. And again, please add your chat to the box and we'll do our best to answer them at the end.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen, McNamara Best, and I am based in Roanoke, Virginia. I work with a local food nonprofit in Roanoke, Local Environmental Agriculture Project, or LEAP, and in partnership with other local food organizations and farmers markets across Virginia, we created the Virginia Fresh Match Network. And Elizabeth Borst, who will also be speaking, we are the two co-leads. Virginia Fresh Match is really, well, one, I'll just say we're so excited to see the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund get off the ground, and also that Virginia Fresh Match and access to food is really being incorporated into it. A lot of times when we talk about access, it's only one component of it. Maybe it's proximity, but it's not looking at affordability, or maybe it's affordability, but it's not looking at proximity or education. And so I really commend the working group and everybody who put forth all of the time and energy and effort to get the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund off the ground. And I'm just so excited to be able to support the work that's going and happening at the community level. Michael, can you move the slides? Thank you.
All right, hang on. I'm getting there. There we go. Sorry about that. I got it. I'm under control now.
Okay, so I think it's always helpful to frame what some of the challenges are and also what we're trying to do to address them. So this is information that a lot of you already know. This data is coming from national and also local sources. And if you could go to the next slide, Michael. If you want any additional information, this is a great resource that was put out collaboratively, Virginia Roadmap to End Hunger, and really looking at different strategies that we as a state, as a collection of communities, can do to address some of the challenges within the food system in Virginia. And so one of the approaches, definitely not the approach or the only approach or anything like that, does include Virginia Fresh Match, and it only really works if it's in partnership with other programs like the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund, working with schools, working with SNAP, working with farmers markets and Virginia grown. Food systems are complex, and there is no one single approach that's going to solve everything. Next slide. So Virginia Fresh Match, it is a SNAP incentive program. So what that means is that we help incentivize SNAP shoppers to purchase fruits and vegetables. SNAP eligible items include fruits and vegetables, but it really depends on well, I guess before that, SNAP oftentimes, even though it's designed as a supplemental nutrition assistance program, it is often families or individuals' main food budget. And so how to help consumers have additional purchasing power so that even with really tight food budgets, they can still purchase fruits and vegetables. Oftentimes fruits and vegetables with tight food budgets are seen as a luxury item, even though we know that a diet rich in fruits and vegetables is good for our individual and community health. So SNAP incentive programs help to incentivize fruits and vegetables by adding additional money to individual household food budgets. Next slide. And so when we are looking at food access, we're looking at three components of it: proximity, affordability, and education. And so Virginia Fresh Matches, we partner with outlets who are centered in the community to help meet people where they are. So we started with farmers markets. We also work with mobile markets. We work with community supported agriculture programs. We work with small grocery retail stores, and anyone that wants to, we are happy to work with them. You have to be able to accept SNAP, And then we will help provide the matching funds. And so that's really where it gets into the affordability piece, is that it is a one-to-one match. So if someone runs, say, $20 on the card at a farmer's market, they would get $40 to be able to purchase food. And the match is specifically for fruits and vegetables. At a grocery store, a mobile market, it's half off for any fruits and vegetables. And then education, the third main component of food access that we work really closely with SNAP-Ed, and both at the state level, and then also really trying to make sure that we're forging all those relationships at the local and community level, so that we aren't duplicating, that we're really scaffolding and making sure that that food is approachable, culturally appropriate, people know what to do with it, and that they feel like it's something that they can take steps to feel comfortable in expanding and affording and accessing fresh fruits and vegetables. Next slide. Elizabeth, do you want to take over here?
Sure. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Elizabeth Borst. I work in a local food organization in the Fredericksburg region called Virginia Community Food Connections. And with Maureen, we help lead the Virginia Fresh Match Network, which is a voluntary network of farmers markets and a number of other types of outlets that Maureen mentioned. And we've got about almost a 10-year history of working collaboratively to help advance the use of nutrition incentives in Virginia. So from the customer perspective, as Maureen said, it kind of looks different in these different environments. We use the USNAP We Match sort of approach, where we're sharing with customers that when they use their SNAP EBT benefits, we will match those for additional fruits and vegetables. That is often what you'll see at a farmer's market. Hopefully you've seen this material before, perhaps through a local DSS office or other locations. In grocery retail, it is positioned more as a discount model. So just a sort of variation, but again, it's all about increasing that affordability for shoppers so that they can bring home more fruits and vegetables. Next, please. So it is structured. We've sort of set up a regional approach. We know that there's a lot of variation across the state in how these areas look and what their needs are. So we have identified regional lead organizations throughout the state who we work with to spread out the ability to use incentives. That's what we call a hub and spoke model. And again, it's really about that statewide support and providing that regional leadership, but focusing always on that local outlet, because that's where the action really happens. And again, our goal is encouraging those SNAP recipients to choose healthy produce from local family farms. There's a lot of benefits circulated throughout the state, and not that many of them land in the pockets of farmers, particularly this year. We know that was incredibly important for farmers to be able to have that income stream when many of their other supply chains were disrupted. And we do focus on sort of creating resources and support for markets and other outlets so that they can improve the way that they reach customers in their community, and we look at freely amongst our network partners. Michael, can you advance? Thank you. So as Maureen also said, we really take a systems approach to this. We know that all of these things are very interconnected. It is not any kind of standalone idea that we can, change everybody's behavior through one method. But we do believe that when we increase people's purchasing power, they are able to make healthier choices. Providing that additional revenue for farmers and food businesses is very critical. I think we saw this past year that any type of disruption can create massive ripple effects, and so having the flexibility The resiliency of programs like this is very important to sustain these food businesses in our community. We do focus on the consumption of nutrient-dense food. We know that, well, and it shouldn't be. I think most of us really right, and this program is one strategy. When these programs exist in communities, they connect to many other food security programs. So it does create that mass within a community of folks that are actively working to ensure access to healthy food. Next, please. So we will be putting together our 2020 impact statement here as soon as we have some final numbers. But looking back at 2019, we worked with 532 farmers who were selling produce to SNAP shoppers and receiving income both from SNAP and from the Fresh Match benefits. That took place in 75 partner outlets. That includes farmers markets, mobile markets, retail, neighborhood grocery stores, and some CSAs. We served almost 7,000 shoppers who spent their SNAP funds over 20,000 times. And for a total impact of 332,000 in SNAP and Match spent at these partner outlets. And these can just be numbers, but it really does translate down to tremendous impact for families and for farmers and for communities. Attracting new shoppers to farmers markets is something that these programs really do achieve, as well as, of course, at the other retail outlets. So it's, numbers are good, but we do like to really focus on the impacts on actual real life people. If you'll advance, Michael. Sorry, I thought there was another slide in between, but I think they're a little bit out of order. Just quickly, well, that's fine. That's fine. Very quickly, we did see the true value of a network. When we started this work, we pretty much just standing in parking lots doing it on our own. So collaborating with other groups that are doing similar work has made for a much stronger approach throughout the state. And we saw, with the tremendous challenges this past year, that that network really showed its value. We calls for many months to help markets just sort of navigate this very new territory and to be able to keep the food access programs front and center. A lot of the changes that markets had to make really made it very difficult to continue. So we took a lot of actions that would support these our partner organizations in being able to continue to serve low-income shoppers in their area. We lifted the cap on incentives, received more match and spend more. Supported the acceptance of pandemic EBT, which was a huge benefit to many families throughout the Commonwealth, and really just scaled right up to meet the surging demand with so many new SNAP enrollments. So the challenge was making sure people knew. It's always the challenge, making sure people know that the program exists. We were able to obtain some national funding to help markets offset some of the COVID-related costs. And again, really just helping markets and our partners strategize and pivot to meet these changing needs and keeping up with the changing rules and regulations, of course. Next, please. Can you guys hear me? I'm getting a sense there's a little audio issue. We okay? I'll lean in a little bit. So those of you who are thinking about applying for the new grant, there is I break up sometimes, I'm sorry. There is a requirement written in that you offer, that it be a retail project that offers SNAP and Virginia Fresh Match. So we wanted to just briefly walk through what that looks like. Again, if you are one of those outlets, a farmer's market, mobile market, CSA, farm stand, neighborhood grocery store, you would self-identify and you would sign up to accept SNAP. That is a process that you go through with the Food and Nutrition Service. At the end, show you where you go to get that retailer information. You would, I'm sorry, I wonder if I should, you would reach out to one of our regional leads within your area to partner with Virginia Fresh Match. A lot of times these projects need some additional funding to operate, so that would be a step in the path of them into your outlet operations and especially into your community outreach programs, because again, the challenge is always letting people know that they can get more value from their SNAP dollars. You would run your program offering either a discount for customers or, well, it's always a discount, but it's how it's positioned, and then reimbursing the vendors for the products that customers buy through the program. And then of course, we always do the feedback loop of collecting data, listening to the community and refining the program to make improvements. And that is again, a big part of what the network does is kind of reflect back, here's things that are working, here's challenges that folks have. So we try to support that work in many ways. Next, please. So we always like to show the impact on individuals. I won't read these to you, but you know, we definitely this year have seen much greater appreciation for this program than we've ever seen. Folks really relied on it to supplement their income when sales were down. But I think anybody who starts down this path will find a lot of receptivity in their community. Folks value the ability to shop with local farmers, to spend their money in their local community. It's remarkable how it can be transformative when you open yourself up to, you know, being available to everybody. You know, SNAP is a specific form of currency, and if you don't accept that currency, you are not in fact able to serve those customers. So we think that that's a pretty important element. Next, please. So we do always think about the future. We have a federal grant that is providing 100% of our incentive funding at this time. And so we have that grant secured through May of 2022, and we are actively working to find the next round of funding that will continue to support markets and other outlets. When we started this work, it was sort of every group for themselves, and we spent a lot of time raising money for the incentives. We're thrilled that we don't have to do that at this point, but we need to ensure that we don't have to do that going forward, and that we can continue to work on a statewide basis to support our partners in doing this work. So we're always looking to increase the capacity of the network. Expanding outreach to end users is again, it's an ongoing thing. And with all of the shifts in the SNAP population, a lot of new folks enrolled, and as well as not as many direct high touch opportunities to connect with those customers. This remains always is a challenging piece. And as I mentioned, we need to secure that sustainable funding for SNAP and incentives. An interesting piece of this is once you have the scaffolding in place to offer SNAP incentives, it becomes a lot easier to offer other types of healthy food incentives on top of that. So maybe you look at these programs as the starting place, but think about whether you could be serving veterans or seniors or WIC families, Medicaid recipients, using the same types of processes. And then we do spend a lot of our time and energy thinking about how do we integrate these programs into all the other pieces of our local, regional, and state programs that are concerned with food security. Next, please. So for those of you who are just starting out in this arena, I want to point you to a couple of great resources. Virginia Cooperative Extension, who's our great partner, has have created a wonderful SNAP EBT toolkit, which you can find on the Virginia Fresh Match website. It is a really soup to nuts approach in how you get signed up for SNAP and how you set these programs up and how you maintain them going forward. That's a great place to start, just to frame yourself in what this looks like. Then specifically, you would go to the FNS retail application site, which is listed here. And it is an authorization process. No one can offer SNAP without becoming SNAP authorized by the Food and Nutrition Service of the USDA. So that is a step unto itself, and it can be a time-consuming one. So if you're thinking about sort of a timeline for this would be a very important step to take early on, so you can get that established and then move forward. The Virginia Department of Social Services offers free wireless equipment to farmers markets. And I've listed the contact here. It is a great deal. They pay for the equipment and they pay for the SNAP swipes. I am less familiar with the equipment provisions for brick and mortar retailers, but I can point you to Michelle Oliver at DSS, who's a great resource to help with the wireless side of equipment. And then last slide. Just wanted to give you all our contact information. We are really happy to work with anyone who has questions. Maureen's contact information is there, as well as mine. And again, if you go to the Virginia Fresh Match website, you can find the regional lead for your region based on the map. And they are also a great resource for answering any of your questions and helping move things along. And we're really excited to be working with all of our other partners, including VDACS, to help move this new grant program along. It's been a long time coming, and we're very, very excited about this innovative new approach. I know we're talking fast, but we want to make sure to leave time for questions. So I will hand it back to you, Lauren.
I'll actually jump in. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Maureen, for that excellent presentation. It does not look like there are any questions in the chat, but does anybody out there in the audience have a question they want to pop in the chat here for anybody at all on our panel? Doesn't necessarily have to be, could be for Jen, or it could be regarding Virginia Fresh Match.
I have a question for Jen and Virginia Fresh Match. I'm looking at, Jen, the scoring rubric for the Food Access Investment Fund applications for the mandatory criteria about offering SNAP. Let's say I'm a project lead and I'm interested in applying for the grant program, and I don't currently offer SNAP. Based on everything that we've just shared, could somebody, in a few sentences, say, where do I start? How do I make sure that I can get this scoring, criteria to be as high as possible, given where I am with lack of resources or knowledge around SNAP infrastructure and offering that?
Yeah, so one of the roles of the program coordinator will be to help people connect with resources for SNAP. So, and I mean, obviously we haven't scored any of the projects yet, but I would imagine, if in that range of scores, a lower end would be they've written down that they plan to accept SNAP, but haven't articulated it or haven't spoken to us about it. And a higher end would be, they've engaged in conversations with us, they've engaged in conversations with Elizabeth or Maureen or, somebody else. Then they would end up on the higher end. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just to get a sense of how to get the ball rolling. And I think also Elizabeth, Maureen mentioned the regional leads might be the start for more information about getting connected as well.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. Yeah. For Virginia Fresh Match, the regional leads are definitely the best point of contact. Also, local SNAP Ed agents are amazing and wonderful. And so if you don't know who your local SNAP Ed agent is, then we can help you, or Meredith Ledley Johnson can help you find who that person is, because they have a lot of information and toolkits, and really this is a lot of the work that they do. And then also, you know, I think part of, and also working with Department of Social Services or Food and Nutrition Services to make sure that that SNAP process, you know, it is kind of complicated sometimes. So that's something that we would like to work with VDACS on to make sure that, you know, that we can have as clear information as possible, because it is multi-step and it can get a little overwhelming. And we've done a great job working with farmers markets, but a different type of project may be a little bit different than a farmers market. So making sure that we have information that's applicable to a lot of different situations.
Great. Thank you, Maureen. It looks like we do have a question in the chat that we want to get to because we only have a few more minutes left. I guess this is probably directly for Jen. It is, what is an example of history of community engagement?
Yeah, so that we're trying to get at, you know, the EFOD principles of being part of the community that you're working in. So I don't have a great idea of an example off the top of my head, but the point would be that you know the community, you're part of the community, you aren't someone who's just, you know, plopped down somewhere, you know, you have no roots. So really it's just, you know, being within that community. Maybe, I mean, maybe you attend a local church, you know, like that would be something, or, you know, you're on a school board, or, I mean, I think there's a myriad of ways that we could get at that. And
yeah, I was just going to say, this is Stephen. One of the reasons we're having this more iterative, interactive approach with the applicants is so we can sort of help answer some of these questions. It's a brand new program. We haven't done any of this before, so it's hard for us to say exactly this or that. It'll be part of the dialogue with them. And I think, you know, you could be a retailer, but if you are a business that also participates in a panel or a board that interacts with the city government in some way, or just some activity, and we will work with applicants as it comes along to sort of help define that better.
yeah, I think there, I mean, or even it could be as simple as you're a business that provides some financial support to the local Little League team. You know, I mean, sort of anything. I think we're going to be open to ideas.
Awesome. Any other questions from anyone? I really appreciate Jen and Stephen, and I guess the commissioner is no with us, that as this is a new program and also new to Virginia, I think you're right, Jen, to my knowledge, is it's the only in the entire country of its kind to really follow it in line with the EFOD principles, that we're going to be learning all together, all of us, how to ensure that the EFOD criteria is implemented in a food access investment fund and program. So I really appreciate the opportunity for a range of eligibility, and then the technical assistance and support from the program coordinator to be available to help guide, shape, offer air traffic control to other resources out there. So if we have no more questions, I do want to just thank you all as panelists and everyone as attendees for joining us today. This has been super exciting to hear more about this. I mean, I'm just so excited that this program is finally here and it has some legs to it. It's been many years in the making, and VDACS, thank you so much for taking the reins and leading it. We will have more information to share as we hear more information from VDACS and about the program. I want to just do a shout out. We have one last webinar that we're offering as part of the series. It's next week on Thursday, January 21st. And I'm really excited that this is really seemed to be a complement to what we've heard today about this program. It's an opportunity to think about redefining equity in the food system and really understanding what that means, especially for food entrepreneurs of color, and bringing wealth creation opportunities to marginalized communities in the food system. So, and another part of that as well is how to evaluate the efficacy of equity in investment programs, which is a huge part of this undertaking, as to how to ensure that the vision is actually being carried out. So please sign up if you're interested for that webinar next week. All of what we've shared today as slide decks, as well as the recording, will be posted on the VCC website. There's the link that I've shared in the chat box. Michael, do you have anything else you want to share, or any of the other panelists?
Just echo the thanks so much to all of our panelists. Thank you to the commissioner for joining us today, even though I know she had to go. And again, thank you to all of our participants, and do please join us if you can on the 21st. I think it's Dr. Karen Jackson will be one of our speakers, and she's phenomenal. So I think you'll enjoy listening to her, and we hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.